Look around the room you're in right now. The unmade bed, the dishes still in the sink from last night, the phone that's been open on 3 different apps for the last 2 hours, the pile of mail you keep meaning to sort. You've been told your whole life that this is just clutter, just a bad habit, just normal. Everyone's busy, everyone's a little behind, it doesn't mean anything. But what if disorder isn't neutral? What if every small mess you tolerate in your room, in your schedule, in your soul, is actually an open door? And what if something on the other side has been waiting patiently for you to leave it unlocked? This isn't a video about productivity. This isn't about becoming a neat freak or optimizing your morning routine for the algorithm. This is about something the saints took seriously enough to write entire treatises on: the idea that chaos is not just uncomfortable, it's an invitation. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how disorder becomes an opening for spiritual attack, and 6 habits, practiced by the saints for centuries, that shut that door for good. Stay with me until the end, because the 6th habit is the one that ties everything together. Centuries ago, Saint Augustine of Hippo, one of the most brilliant minds the Church has ever produced, wrote a phrase that, translated simply, means this: serve order and order will serve you. At first, that sounds almost too simple to matter. It sounds like something you'd find printed on a throw pillow, not something written by a doctor of the Church who spent his life wrestling with the deepest questions of sin, grace, and the human soul. But Augustine wasn't talking about color-coded planners or capsule wardrobes. He was talking about the architecture of the soul itself. Here's what he understood, and what we've largely forgotten: disorder doesn't stay contained. It doesn't stay in the junk drawer or the backseat of the car. It spreads. A messy room becomes a distracted mind. A distracted mind becomes a neglected prayer life. And a neglected prayer life is exactly the kind of soil where something darker can take root. Think about it this way. Nature itself testifies to this principle. The human body is ordered, organs in their place, systems working in rhythm, and when that order breaks down, we call it disease. The seasons are ordered. The liturgical calendar is ordered. Even the angels, according to church teaching, exist in a hierarchy of order. Disorder, by contrast, has always been associated with the fall. When Lucifer rebelled, tradition tells us it was fundamentally a refusal of order, a refusal to occupy his proper place in creation. Chaos isn't just inconvenient, it's the native language of rebellion against God. So when a home is cluttered, when a schedule is chaotic, when prayer is an afterthought squeezed in between everything else, that's not just inefficiency. That's a small, quiet echo of the same refusal. The enemy doesn't usually need a grand entrance. He rarely announces himself. He works in the cracks: the skipped morning prayer, the phone scroll instead of a shared family meal, the home filled with images and noise that have nothing to do with God. None of these feel dramatic in the moment. They feel like nothing. That's exactly the point. Small compromises, stacked one on top of another, until the soul forgets what peace even feels like. So if disorder is the crack he slips through, then order isn't just tidiness. It's spiritual armor. It's a defense that most of us have never thought to put on. Here are 6 habits that build it, one day at a time. It starts the second your alarm goes off. That first decision of the day, snooze or rise, feels insignificant. It's 6 a.m., you're half asleep, nobody's watching. But that first decision sets the tone for everything that follows. It is the first battle of the day, and most of us lose it before our feet even touch the floor. Get up, don't negotiate with yourself. Don't reach for the phone first. Get up and make your bed. This isn't about aesthetics. A perfectly made bed isn't the point. The point is what the act represents. A declaration made with your body before your mind has even fully caught up, that today will have intention behind it. You are not drifting into the day, carried along by whatever demands your attention first. You are stepping into it on your own terms, oriented toward a purpose. Saints and soldiers alike have understood this. Discipline in the smallest act, the first act, creates momentum for every act that follows. If you can win that first, quiet, unglamorous battle, you've already told your soul something important. I am not ruled by comfort. I am ruled by purpose. Somewhere along the way, meals stopped being something we do and became something we squeeze in. Eating in the car between errands, eating standing over the sink, eating with a screen propped in front of us, barely tasting what's in front of us because our attention is somewhere else entirely. But a meal was never meant to be just fuel. In nearly every spiritual tradition, and certainly in our own, food is provision, a gift, not a given. Sitting down at a table, saying grace before the first bite, eating without rushing. This transforms an ordinary biological necessity into an act of gratitude. There's also something deeply communal about it. A family that eats together, actually together, no phones, no television, no one eating on their way out the door, is a family that has protected one of the last spaces where conversation and connection can happen without competition. Consuming and receiving are two different postures. One is rushed, distracted, and mindless. The other is slow, aware, and thankful. Choosing the table over the sink, the prayer over the silence, is choosing to receive rather than merely consume. This next one sounds almost too small to matter, and that's exactly why it works. Put the shoes back by the door, close the cabinet, hang up the coat instead of draping it over a chair, file the paper instead of letting it join the pile. None of this seems spiritually significant in the moment. But carelessness with small things is never actually small, it's a pattern. And patterns move. The coat left on the floor becomes the errand left undone, which becomes the relationship left unattended, which becomes, eventually, the prayer life left to wither. There's an old idea, echoed by many spiritual writers, that the soul mirrors the home. A home that is cared for in its smallest, most unglamorous details. The things no guest will ever notice becomes a home where nothing is quietly allowed to rot. You're not just organizing a room. You're training a habit of attentiveness that eventually extends to your conscience, your relationships, and your interior life. Now we arrive at the harder one, the one most people would rather skip. Walk through your home slowly, room by room, and ask an uncomfortable question. Does everything here point toward God, or is some of it quietly pointing away from Him? This might mean media that mocks or trivializes what's sacred. It might mean objects tied to practices you know aren't aligned with your faith. It might simply mean the walls of your home being filled with images of vanity, violence, or noise. Nothing overtly evil, just nothing that lifts the soul either. None of these things announce themselves as dangerous. They just sit there, year after year, shaping the atmosphere of the home without anyone noticing. And atmosphere matters. We are formed, slowly and mostly unconsciously, by what surrounds us every single day. This is the step that asks for real honesty, not paranoia. This isn't about seeing danger in every object, but honest discernment. What have I allowed into this space simply because I never stopped to ask? In place of what's removed, sacred art, an image of a saint, a crucifix in a room where it's actually seen, not just stored away. Objects that remind you every time you walk past them of who you belong to. You're not just cleaning house. You're reconsecrating the space, one deliberate choice at a time. There's a reason this has been a practice for centuries, not a passing trend. Asking a parish priest to bless your home isn't a formality, and it isn't superstition. It's a real, sacramental act of spiritual claiming. You are saying, out loud, through the church's own authority, this space belongs to God, not to whatever chaos or influence has been allowed to linger here. A blessed home isn't just symbolically different. It's spiritually covered. Just as we bless individuals at baptism, at confirmation, at every Mass, we can and should bless the spaces where those individuals actually live out their days. It's a small step, often overlooked simply because no one thinks to ask, but it's one of the most direct ways to establish protection over the place you spend most of your life. And finally, the habit that holds every other one together. You can have the tidiest home in the neighborhood, the healthiest morning routine, walls free of anything questionable and freshly blessed by a priest, and still be spiritually empty if no one inside that home is actually praying. This is where the Rosary comes in, not as an obligation to check off, but as a rhythm, a daily return to God that anchors a family the same way waking up on time anchors an individual. Praying together, even imperfectly, even with restless kids or tired excuses, does something that praying alone can't fully replicate. It makes faith visible. It makes it a shared language in the home, not a private hobby practiced in isolation. Order without prayer is just discipline. It might make your life more efficient, but it won't necessarily make it more holy. Order with prayer becomes something closer to what we're actually after: peace. St. Thomas Aquinas offered a definition of peace that ties this entire video together. Peace, he said, is the tranquility of order. Not the absence of struggle, not a life free of difficulty, not perfection achieved once and maintained forever. Just this, everything in its right place, oriented toward the one who made it. That's what these 6 habits build, brick by brick, day by day. Waking with intention, eating with gratitude, keeping what surrounds you cared for, removing what doesn't belong, inviting real sacramental protection into your home, and returning together to prayer. Not a home that's simply clean, a home that's harder for chaos to enter and easier for grace to fill. Because in the end, the enemy doesn't need to break down your door. He's just hoping you'll leave it open. If this resonated with you, consider which one of these 6 habits your household is missing the most and start there. Not all 6 at once. Just one, practiced faithfully, is enough to begin restoring order.